if you're going to try to shorten this learning curve and you're not going to end up giving up on it, you have to either be fully on telesales or fully in the home. Now, once you know both, cool, do the hybrid. But if you're going to learn telesales, it is super hard to be. I did it. That's why I'm saying, like, I was with my other company doing in the field and I was trying to learn telesales, and I lengthened that learning curve by an extra month and a half. And I almost gave up on it. Like, it's not going to work for me. But if you're going to do it, just fully commit to that and practice your script. Once you get that weekend, you're golden.
All right, welcome to the FFL Gloves Off weekly training call. My name is Josh Lockhart. I'm the vice president of FFL Gloves Off, along with my wife, Michelle Lockhart, who everybody knows is the agency owner. I just work here. But really excited today to introduce really one of the top producers, upcoming agency owners that is just doing a bang up job, going out there, helping a ton of families, primarily in the telesales realm, and just really has an incredible story, and is somebody that, in my opinion, from my vantage point, watching her and her husband, has a lot of reasons to complain, has a lot of reasons to maybe quit, slow down, because we all have adversities, and certainly they are not without theirs. But there are a couple that do none of that. They do not complain. They have a can-do attitude every time, in every single circumstances. And as far as I can tell, they always find a way to win, and win big. So really excited to have you on, Candi Hooder. And I know, Greg, you're there as well, right beside her. But are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Josh.
Awesome. Well, let's just jump right into it. Real quick, if you could just kind of catch us up to speed on your background, what you were doing, maybe even prior to the insurance industry, and kind of what got you attracted to the insurance industry. And then I know you came from a practice company, as we like to call it. We'll touch on that before we jump into it.
Yeah, so before the life insurance industry, I was actually selling Cutco knives. And I will tell you, that is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. So we did not have leads. You started at 5% commission. Granted, the knives were expensive, but you had to work off pure referrals. So I got super good at referrals with that company, which is very beneficial over here. I was with them for about a year, and I worked my way up to the 50%, which was the top notch, in 6 months, which was unheard of over there. So I knew I had the motivation in a sales job. And then I was working events, and I was projected to make about 100,000 in my second year with them. And all of the events were canceled overnight with COVID, right? So I was like, oh gosh, what do I do? I have no idea what I'm doing. So I started looking on Indeed, and I'll be honest, I found FFL online, and I wanted to do the insurance industry, but I thought FFL was a scam. And I was like, I'm not going over there. There's no way that's possible. So I took a job from Indeed, and that was my practice company. And within 2 months, I was negative 10 grand in my bank account, basically. So I was down, and I was like, well, I see the money. So I did reach back out to FFL. And I think I reached out to Michelle, and I talked to her. I said, it's over. I'm done. I'm coming to FFL. And I did. I jumped over, but it was definitely not easy. Like you said, they held all of my carriers captive. So I still, to this day, I'm still kind of stuck with like 90% of final expense. That's why you see me posting a lot of final expense. So I just felt like I would be disservicing people if I was doing term with only like 1 or 2 companies. I didn't want to do that to people. But now with him working with me, I'm able to do a little bit more. So yeah, it was a hard transition, and there was a lot of trials and tribulations along the way to get to where I am.
Wow. So, okay, I didn't know about the 10 grand thing. What, if you don't mind, I mean, what happened there? Like, how did you go negative?
So how the company worked was the leads were $35, and he put them on sale for $25. They were good mortgage leads, but he said you had to buy all of them in the area to get that deal. So I was buying like $300, $400, $500 in leads a day. Right. And I did this for 2 months straight. I couldn't work all those leads, but there still wasn't enough leads to kind of build a team either. So I like, do you want to see the stack?
The stack.
This is the stack of leads that I have from that company. So yeah, it ended up adding up. There's probably about at least 8,000-9,000 of leads sitting there.
Wow. So yeah, if anybody wants some aged mortgage leads, there you go.
They're not even that age. They're from just this past December, so they're like 4 or 5 months old.
Okay. I just sold a couple policies that were my leads were a year old. So like I bought them my first month and I went back and texted them. And anyway, so leads a lead. So that's amazing. And go ahead. What did you say?
No, I just said right, or leads a lead.
Right. Well, so I mean, a lot of folks, not a lot, but some would, they're waiting to get started. They want to have all of the carriers before they start, and you definitely didn't. And I was pretty impressed how you hit the ground running and just kind of did what you could. And I suppose, now that we knew that you just had to make something work, huh?
Right. Yeah, I had to make it work. And I can't say with the telesales, I wanted to do telesales at first. I was kind of stuck with it. So the car broke down. We were having issues. I was like, well, I'm not going to stop working. So I was like, I'm going to figure out this telesales thing. And it was not easy. I sat at my desk for about 2 weeks straight. I had him bringing me food. I wouldn't leave the desk at all. Because the first 2 weeks I started, I was, oh, I'll get up, I'll go to go play with the dog. I'm gonna go sing this song. I couldn't sit in the chair. I wasn't getting anything done. I was working all day, but I was getting nothing done. So I was like, I just have to discipline myself to sit here. And the way I thought about it was condition my body, really, like condition myself to sit here, make myself focus. Now, give myself little breaks. Now I do that. But back then, to get myself to that point, I wanted to shorten the learning curve as much as possible because I wasn't making anything at first. I'm like, is this even work? I don't know what's going on. It does work, guys. If you want to do the telesales, it does work, but there's a lot of mindset to it. You have to figure out how to clear your mind because it's really hard to just sit there and kind of stare at a screen all day, right? Like you want to get up, you want to go for a walk, you're home, you want to eat. There's a lot of distractions. So if you're going to do the telesales aspect of it, not have an office, you have to have a lot of discipline and you got to train yourself to get that.
So, that's a good point because I was just talking to this with someone the other day. It's like when you are, running in home, you dial, if you're kind of on the system, so to speak, you dial Monday for Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're driving, right? Like if you have an appointment, you're driving there. So you're in the car, you're not going to show up. You're not home. So you don't have the distractions there. You just go on to the next appointment. Now, if they cancel, you're in your car and there's nothing else to do really. So, you make calls or do whatever, but yeah, I mean, when you're home, there's plenty of distractions. So I guess what are some things that you do to kind of, like you said, condition yourself, help yourself to focus?
Well, I forced myself for that 2 weeks and that helped me tremendously. Like it was really hard to do, but I forced myself to do it. And I'd have like little doodles and stuff. I was like, I'm not moving out of the chair. I don't care what I do in the seat while I'm dialing. But when I had a hard time mindset, I started like take the emotion entirely out of it, guys. Like you're literally sitting there hitting a button, making thousands of dollars. Like just focus on the actual thing you're doing. You're like, wow, this is super easy to just make this kind of money. That like you're talking, you're hitting a button. So it really, if you just break it down and take all emotion out of it, because that's what's going to get you is your mindset. Like, can I do this? Does this work? Take it entirely out of it and practice your script, because the biggest thing with telesales, one is you have to switch up your script. You can't just go from in-home straight into telesales and expect it to work. The script is very different and you have to focus more on having them trust you. So you have to make sure you got to tweak the tone in your voice. There's a lot of different little tweaks that you got to get, and only you can do that. No one else can really teach you to do that. You get your own flow with it. but you do got to practice a lot. And if you do the same amount of practice in a week compared to all the distractions, and you do it over a month, you're probably going to give up over the month, right? Like, this don't work for me. So if you squeeze it in that little bit of time, shorten the learning curve, then you'll end up coming out on top, and you'll be like, wow, this does work. You got to force yourself to sit there and learn it, though, and learn your flow.
Okay. So you say practice. So like, do you practice on Greg, or what do you do for practice?
For the 2 weeks, I practiced all the time. Like, I slept with it in my ears. I practiced in the shower. I practiced when I was down, I'm practicing. And the funny thing was, someone would answer and I'd be in the middle of it. Super embarrassing, right? They're like, what was you saying? But all the time, just so you get exactly how you want to say it down. And, that's all the time, practice 24/7 for at least a week.
Okay.
I'd say you have it down.
Oh, okay. So since you say that, what's your opener? Well, before we get to that, let's talk about like to give everybody kind of a frame of reference of what you're doing, right? So you're doing telesales. So are you calling and just doing on the spot, one call, one closes? Are you setting appointments? What does that look like?
So I do one call to close, because to me, it just didn't make sense to call them and try to get them back on the phone again, unless they're driving or they're busy. But now what has increased my show rate, if I have to make an appointment, is that triple tie down that Brandon Kitchens taught us. So been
Awesome.
using that. That works really well. I'm really adamant on, can you make this appointment? If not, I'm going to give it to another family. And they're like, it's either yes or no. Like, I'm just straight, blunt, honest with them. Like, look, there's other families out there that need the help if you're not going to be at the appointment, and they're like, no, I'll be there. Okay. All right. I'll put you in the schedule.
Okay. A few different things you say. Okay. So let's back up a little bit. So you're doing one call to close. So you're like, you get them on the phone, and within 30 seconds or a minute or something, you're probably trying to start the appointment. So if you could, yeah, let's run through it if you don't mind. Well, what does that sound like?
Yeah. So, hi, Josh. This is Candy. I'm a licensed field underwriter here for the state of Hawaii. I'm just getting back to you about a request that you had sent in here for more information on the funeral and final expense programs. I'm just calling to make sure I get this out to you. I know it's important. Now, just to verify, I have your address as 123 Success Lane. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Now, I did process that for you. We're doing everything right over the phone right now, just because of COVID and all the different variants. We don't want to get anybody sick. So if you want to do me a quick favor, go ahead and grab a pen and paper, and I'll go over this with you.
Wow, that's super simple. And what that was simple. What are some like obviously one response is they go get it, like what are some things, maybe even some objections, the common ones that you get?
The common ones, what's this about? So I noticed when I was going too fast, so I started slowing it down. I get hung up on every once in a while, but for the most part, when you say do me a favor, people go get the pen and paper, not even know what you're talking about. Be like, wait, what was this again? So
That's
it works
awesome.
pretty good for me.
Now, I also heard you said Hawaii, and now I have a little intel on this. So you're in Pennsylvania, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, you're in Pennsylvania, and you do a fair amount of calling in Hawaii. I think everybody can guess, but why is that?
So basically in the evenings, I can go back to like the 4 or 5 o'clock point that we have over here on the West Coast, or not West Coast, sorry, East Coast. But basically, if I didn't hit my goal, I'll go until like 1 in the morning trying to hit my goal. And that just kind of broadens the time frame. So from 9 till 1 in the morning, I could still dial if I need to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what's your lead flow look like? Your lead flow, lead mix?
So I buy a little bit of everything now, but I was just doing final expense mailers for the longest time, but that was just because of my carriers. So now I'm buying mortgage protection. I buy the internet life leads now, and I'm really liking those. So, the ones that, not the instance, the internet life lead, sorry.
The 1 month old?
No, not the one ones, the new ones.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so it's for everybody. There's the instant leads. Those are typically $11. There's the new internet life leads for $9, and then the 1 month old for $4. So you're doing the new ones mostly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Cool. And then, so pretty much everything, you're just getting it right out of the CRM.
Yep. I haven't really, I'm starting to look into other sources, but I haven't veered from the CRM much.
That's awesome. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. So I'm right there with you. And then so what's your schedule look like? So you said you kind of went through that 2 week period where you're just like, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to get it done. What does that look like? What does that look like right now? So you helped 16 families this past week. We all looked in the chat at the day. You had that one day. You're just like every 5 minutes, it seems like ding, there goes Candi. Ding, there goes Candi. So what's the schedule look like to be able to produce that?
So I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I work out. I do my meditation for at least a half hour. Now, one thing I could probably chalk a lot of this up to is the meditation, guys. So a lot of people talk about mindset and consistency, but they don't really talk about how they do it. So there's YouTube videos, there's Zygon that I came across. I sleep to theta and delta waves. Like literally, I'm doing everything I can to try to help with my mindset during the day, because then that calms me down. And whenever I'm having a lot of anxiety or what's going on through the day, because there's a lot of things going on when you get to a high production. You talked about Star Virtual. I got James. So, but yeah, the meditation really helps me. There's even energy ones, right? So like whenever you're tired, you're staring at a screen, there's energy ones that keep my energy up where I can still sit and focus and not have to go, out and for a walk and get myself away from everything. So it's helped a lot. And I think my production's really showing for it, that I can sit at the computer a lot longer, found myself focusing more. But I do sit at the computer for at least 12 hours a day right now. So I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, but you're doing it. You're making it happen. You're getting the results. So, but that's important. I mean, controlling your emotions, whether it be, somebody, Michelle walked in last week and I was on the phone it was like a $40 lead, right? So sometimes people are like, I need the really expensive leads. And this was like a $40 lead. The guy was like, he was super mad that I was calling, and he was more or less just cussing me out. And she walks in and she gives me like the big look. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you have to be able to, overcome that when you're with your emotions and not be like, let it blow your day. And then next thing you know, you just like, I can't work anymore, or you have a setback, or you have a bunch of no-shows, right? All those things, if you don't keep it in check, it's going to mess you up.
And I still go through all of that, guys. Like just a couple of days ago, I went through 2 whole days. I had no sales. I'm like, is this still even working for me? Like, what's going on? So no, if you're consistent with but if you're giving up in your head and you're telling yourself it's not going to work, it's not going to work, because you have to believe in yourself. You do, because then it starts to show in your voice, in your posture, and everything that you do, and you start getting down on yourself. And honestly, people are people. They're just going to be people. It don't matter what you do, but this does have a lot to do with a lot of rejection and a little bit of time. When you're doing constant telesales, you're dealing with a lot of rejection all in a little bit. So you keeping your mindset right, and the meditation, like I said, really helped me. It was game changer for me. Sleeping to the theta and delta, which also, like, you have to sleep right. And certain nights I was going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I had to really think, how can I get myself into that deep sleep faster? So I'm getting at least the best sleep in the smallest amount of time. So if I'm sleeping from 1 to 4, I want to make sure I'm in my deep sleep faster than. So
Yeah, that's intense. That's intense.
yeah.
I also get up at 4. I don't go to bed. I turn into a pumpkin after midnight. Like if midnight comes, I'm Cinderella. It's bad news. So wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, more often, but it happened a couple times last week. I was like, nope. That was the 2 days I told you I didn't get any sales. I said I'm not going to bed until like I can't call Hawaii no more.
Yeah, I think I remember that because I went to bed whatever time I did, 10:30, and then I woke up to sales in the chat from you, and I was like, wow, I don't know what time she was up. So I don't know if you track any of your numbers as far as like calls, appointments, anything that you could share on that note, like how many calls you might make in a day, or appointments for the day or the week, or if you don't track appointments like talks or presentations or whatever you track.
So I do track everything, but it's hard. So my goal is to get the highest amount of sales and the littlest amount of calls, right? I'm doing telesales. So I'll dial until I get a hold of my people and hit my sales, which is 3 to 5,000 each day. That's my goal. But I'll be honest, there's just days that you have 10 dials and you got 3, 4 sales. And then there's days you have like 1,000 dials and you didn't have but one. So I can't say there's any consistency to the dials. I feel like it's just whoever answers. But I do dial until I hit my goal. And if I don't hit it, I have to pull back and be like, don't get down on yourself. You're gonna have days like this. You're gonna have bad weeks. But I think that goes back to what everybody else always says. You're never gonna have a bad month as long as you're consistent with it, no matter
Yeah.
what you do. It's in the field or whether it's at home. So
So for sure. So a couple of things that you just said. So number one, now we all know that you had like one day you helped like 8 families in a single day, and there was like a lot of, I mean, you didn't have like giant sales. You just were helping a lot of families. And so my guess, now you correct me if I'm wrong, but my guess is that, of course, they were one call, one closes, but maybe you had some follow up to do. Is that right or no?
there was a few of them that were follow-ups, yeah. So
Okay.
I think 3 out of the 8 families were follow-ups, but everybody else was in between. And it was just a good day. Like I end up having a half a sheet filled up and 4 were new, 3 were follow-ups. So yeah.
Yeah, well, and I just point that out because I think sometimes it's like, well, you get off the phone, they're like, well, they're not going to get it, right? And because we have so many leads, we do kind of do a bad job at the referrals and the follow up. That's something that probably company wide that we could all do better on. And then the other thing you said 1,000 dials in a day. Like,
I try to hit it. Like it's not, like I said, my goal is more like try to have as little, because you're presenting all day. If you're hitting $1,000, you had a bad day. There's no way that you're presenting and hitting that. So most of the time you end up at least with one sale in there if you got a 500 to $1,000, but it's hard to hit. But if I'm not presenting and I'm not selling, I'm forcing myself to hit that button as many times as I can.
yeah. And just so for anybody that doesn't know, you're using phone burner, right? So that,
Yes.
yeah,
So
I don't know that you can make $1,000 without that. So well, that's awesome. What, kind of in closing here, just a few things. Anything that you wanted to share as far as, business tactic, strategy, whatever that we didn't hit on?
I can't say so. Organization, I feel like, is really important from the beginning, as far as business tactics or whatever you want to call that. But yeah, organization, I just the mindset is really the biggest thing. If you're going to do telesales, you have to fully commit. Okay. So if you're going to try to shorten this learning curve and you're not going to end up giving up on it, you have to either be fully on telesales or fully in the home. Now, once you know both, cool, do the hybrid. But if you're going to learn telesales, it is super hard to be. I did it. That's why I'm saying, like, I was with my other company doing in the field and I was trying to learn telesales, and I lengthened that learning curve by an extra month and a half. And I almost gave up on it. Like, it's not going to work for me. But if you're going to do it, just fully commit to that and practice your script. Once you get that weekend, you're golden.
That's incredible. And last question, I know you have your partner in crime there, Greg, and he's also doing well, brand new to the industry. What's your guys' goals for this year?
So my goal, I'm hitting 900,000 this year. I want to do 3 to 5,000 a day. That you asked.
Yeah. Okay.
So I feel like when I really focus and I'm really consistent with it, I can easily hit a day. And I calculated it and I was like, that's what I'm going to do.